This is Dan from Radio Free Pensacola, along with my interviewing partner.
Timo from EAV Radio.
And today we're talking with Stefan Murphy. He's an old friend of the show, and also he's an old friend of ours personally. We had a rare opportunity to get together with Stefan, not only during his sets on the Salty Dog Cruise, but actually for a special in-room concert, which was quite a treat for all of us. And right now we get the opportunity to sit down and pick his brain a little bit. So, Steph, good to see you.
Good to see you guys too. I've been seeing a lot of you over the last few days. I'm not complaining.
Okay, good. I was going to ask. Hopefully, it was all positive.
It was totally.
Well, Steph, we're going to start with the hard questions, of course.
Yeah.
Who do you think you are?
Who do I think I am? That is a good. It's a good question. Well, I've always heard people say that you shouldn't let what you do or what you aspire to do define who you are. But I kind of messed that up, and I allowed what I am, or I allowed what I am to just be a reflection of what I do. I'm a touring singer-songwriter who tries to balance that with leading a happy and healthy, life with, family and friends and stuff like that. I think I've gone too far down the rabbit hole of being a artist, if you want to call it that, to really have any chance of a normal existence. So, who I am is what I do.
All right.
And that might sound bleak, or it might sound kind of quirky or interesting to some people, but it's kind of like the only answer I can give to that question, really.
I think a great many of us self-identify that way, although not to the same creative level. But
yeah, well, I've always been told, or read, that you shouldn't. You should try and avoid quantifying yourself based on, how successful you are at what you do. But when you're so invested in what you do, it becomes very difficult to separate the two, which is a constant battle that I'm facing. If I go away on tour, for example, I've been on 4 tours this year. This is the 4th. If I go away on tour and it's a unbelievable failure in terms of people, not enough people coming out to the shows, not enough money being made to break even, never mind make any sort of living from it, you start to think that that's a reflection of who you are. Whereas if you work at the post office and not that many people come in that day, you go home, you still get paid the same, you don't give a shit, so it's difficult to. It's doing this type of work it's not for everybody, and people say, I'd never be able to get up in front of X amount of people and do that 5 or 6 times a week. I'm like, I'm sure you would be able to do that if you really kind of gave it your go. It might be the back end stuff, like the emotional exhaustion from like constantly putting yourself out there that you may not quite find to be much fun,
Well, talking about your journey as you say, if you could be called an artist, I'm going to call you an artist.
Okay.
Because that's just done, and I think.
Damn you!
I think from the response you've gotten from just the shows I've seen on this cruise, I think most people here would definitely agree with me. But can you walk me through a little bit? I started listening to you from back when you were with Mighty Steph.
Yeah.
Then you took a tour through what you count Vaseline.
Yeah.
And now you're back to playing as Stefan Murphy. Can you tell me kind of that process?
Well, I suppose, that's a pretty valid question. I am. When the Mighty Steph project stopped, and that was after 12 years of a lot of hard work, lineup changes, about 5-6 years of having the pretty much concrete lineup, working our asses off, making a few decent records, and just still not being able to elevate ourselves to the next level of being able to work at a higher degree. Meanwhile, the cost of being able to sustain ourselves in the industry was rising and rising all of the time. So with the advent of other members of the band having kids and getting married and, you know, just basically being broke all of the time, all of us were, it became apparent that, you know, it was time to stop that. So maybe in a reaction to the idea of like taking things so seriously for so long, I went and did the Count Vaseline project, which was only me. If it was good, only I could take the credit. If it was bad, only I could take the blame. And it had elements of both, you know. There was some successes and some failures with that, but it was very enjoyable. Only problem with that is, you know, it did alienate a huge part of, like, I would say more than 50% of the people who had supported the Mighty Steph would support anything I do ever because they trust me and they, like, you know, they know that, you know, even in my weirdest hour that they'll get something out of it. And then maybe the other 40% would have said, okay, well, maybe he's just doing this, we'll wait until he comes back to his senses and starts playing, you know, the songs again, which is kind of what I'm doing now. I'm trying to amalgamate everything I've learned doing the serious thing and doing the not so serious solo thing, putting them together. And I mean, trying to be serious, trying to have a career again, but also trying to have fun. And, you know, if you have a bad day or a bad week or a bad tour, you know, there's going to be another one. Don't kid yourself into thinking that this is the end. There's always more. So with that said, I've yet to make an album for the Stefan Murphy thing. And I keep calling it the Stefan Murphy thing, and maybe if I do make an album, I'll start just calling it what it is, and it's just my career that I'll probably have until I stop, you know, because I guess when someone finally starts just playing under their own name, they see a kind of a clear horizon as to, like, well, I don't really need side projects or bands, I'm just going to do this. A side project or a band might be fun in the future, but I'm putting all my energy into this now, and hopefully I'll make a record before 6 months is out, and, you know, take it from there.
Please let us know. I look forward to hearing
Yeah,
that. Definitely.
Of course I will. Excuse me.
Along those lines, and I know you and I joke about this occasionally when we're just hanging out. What advice do you have for the young and upcoming kids who are thinking about making a career of doing music?
Well, I probably have a lot of advice, and some of it wouldn't be positive reinforcement, and I don't believe in giving people cautionary advice, because especially in the field of, like, you know, entertainment, and, you know, in the spirit of rock and roll, you have to be allowed to make your own mistakes, because how the hell else will you write good songs? You know, I didn't write any good songs until I was 26, because I didn't do shit before that. I didn't have anything but contrived, fake kind of renditions of life experience until I actually, you know, had a broken heart, had, you know, experienced the back end of, like, messing around with alcohol and drugs, and had experienced struggles with mental illness. You know, this is the kind of shit that all the artists that I've loved write about, and it comes with life experience. So write silly songs, but always gather your experiences as you go, and then like reflect that in your work. I'd say that. And another thing I'd say, which isn't my quote at all, but it's from a brilliant documentary that I watched about Quincy Jones, and when he was when he was extremely famous globally, but still not allowed to play, still only allowed to play to white audiences, and still only allowed to stay in, like, black motels when he was on the road and stuff like that. I think it was he had a conversation with Count Basie, who was one of his heroes, and he said to him, you know, just no matter what anybody says to you, you know, be it your critics, your fans, someone who doesn't has a problem with you because of the color of your skin or religion, race, whatever, all that stuff. And he said this thing which resonates with me, and I sometimes write it out just to remind myself. It goes, he said, not one ounce of my dignity or self-respect depends upon your acceptance of me. And and it's important to remember that even if you were playing in front of a crowd of 10,000 adoring fans, or if you were playing in front of 15 people and 3 of them are throwing bottles at you, you just maintain your sense of self. Don't get carried away. Don't get carried away because people love you. Don't get carried away because people don't, you know. And that's what I took from that, and that's something I'd say to anybody in any walk of life, never mind an upcoming, you know, musician or artist.
I've asked a lot of artists that, and I think that's probably the best answer I've gotten from any of them. Thank you.
I would agree.
Yeah. Maybe I'm still half asleep and I'm getting all the good stuff. Maybe I'm still dreaming.
All right, well, let's turn it on its head a little bit. We've been pretty serious. It's another question I always go for because I enjoy it. What's one of the craziest things that has happened to a fan or something you've run into on the road, be it Mighty Stefan Murphy, Count Vaseline, any time?
Happened to a fan?
It could just at a show. It could be something a fan did. Something crazy that happened with you guys.
Yeah, I remember I accidentally kicked one of my friends in the head. Who at a Dublin show, it was pretty much sold out and it was packed and everyone was up the front, and it was with the Mighty Steph, and it was people were dancing and I couldn't really see what was going on. And I think I might have just kind of like got a little bit too close to the front and maybe kicked out my leg Elvis style or something. And I kicked a friend of mine in the head, and it split his head open. He didn't go to the hospital. He should have. He needed stitches. He just stayed for the rest of the gig, and it was blood everywhere. And I didn't realise until a few songs later where he came right up to the front and he goes, "Look what you're after doing to me." I mean, that was an accident. There's probably a lot. Oh, Jesus Christ.
This should be good.
This is good. Now I've remembered. So, the last tour that I was on, Stefan Murphy solo tour with my old friend and musical accomplice, who used to be in an older version of TMS before you ever would have discovered us. His name is Stephen Fanning. He lives in Berlin now, and he was playing piano and a little bit of guitar, and I was playing acoustic guitar. And it was a Sunday night gig. It was one of these gigs that we call a night off gig, where you have a tour and then someone offers you have a night off. It's like a Sunday. There's not really much going on a Sunday, especially in Germany. But someone offers you a gig. It's not as well paid as the other ones, but you'll take it because you'd rather have that and a hotel to stay in than do nothing, you know. So we took it, and it turned out to be not exactly a music loving audience, but there was enough people there to make it fun, and then just random people coming in. And there was this one guy who was in a wheelchair, but it wasn't your average wheelchair. It was like an Olympic style wheelchair, like a one for like people who have great
doing the sports
skill and dexterity at sports. Yeah, exactly. And he was the drunkest motherfucker in the bar, and he was having fun. He was going around talking to everybody, and I had on my guitar. It has painted on my guitar. It has "Yo no soy marinero," which means I am not a sailor, which was a lyric which was a lyric from the song La Bamba by Richie Valens, and also the title of a Count Vaseline album. So some guy in the crowd, he was curious about what that was about. He was like, what does that mean? I was like, I was explaining it's from the song La Bamba, and like the guy in the wheelchair just like a light went off in his head. Did someone say La Bamba? And he wheeled all the way up to the front. He goes, "Play La Bamba." like me, myself and Steve were looking at each other. I was like, okay, but so I started played a verse and chorus of La Bamba with that, This guy goes up on his back wheels, starts doing repeated 360 spins, going fucking berserk, like unbelievable shit, you know. And he's just literally going mad, and we stopped, and he was like, "Yes!" Like favorite song of all time. So that was something we don't see every day at a gig, but then more to further my story with that guy for the night. Like I was talking to him and stuff. He was funny. He was pretty fucking drunk, but he was a funny guy. But I went in to use the bathroom at one point, and there's no wheelchair accessible bathroom in this pub. In fact, you know, a lot of German pubs, you know, if you want to go to the toilet and you're in a wheelchair, someone's going to have to lift you out, you know. Not for this guy though. You might have to describe what's going on here, because I went into the bathroom and his wheelchair was perched in front of a urinal, and he was out of, like, arched up like that, penis in the air, just pissing freely into a urinal. And he turns around, and this is the punchline. He turns around to me and he goes, "It's nothing you haven't seen before." It's like, I guess you're right. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million other stories about when things went horribly wrong, but let's keep it positive.
I like that. Dan, you got any questions for Stefan?
You and I talked briefly yesterday, and I've been thinking about that, and something that always intrigues me the most. It's, you know, we've had a lot of artists over time as you listen to their work develop, and you do catch that concept album that goes off in a different direction,
Yeah.
more like the transition from Mighty Step to Count Basil.
Yeah.
Like that. And those, I mean, not to spend the whole time explaining myself, but I feel like those are some of the most exciting musical periods for
Yeah.
me to listen to an artist take off in a new direction.
Yeah.
Earlier, you talked about the kind of courage to finally give up all the tropes and the basic stuff, and you said you wrote your first really good song at 26.
Yeah.
When you were beginning to, I guess, be more honest.
Yeah, be more honest and actually, I suppose, unafraid to express a true feeling in a song, rather than, you know, like I was in a punk band, for example, before starting up what then became the Mighty Steph. I was in a really good punk band actually called the Subtonics, and I spoke to Jake Burns from Stiff Little Fingers briefly in the bar there the other day, and I told him about how my second ever gig for my second ever band was opening up for them, and he remembered the show, and that was like we didn't, like, me and the guys in the band, we didn't have a songwriting relationship. We were all different ages into different things, so we almost had to have these kind of almost like safe concepts that we were willing to sing about, like, you know, going out drinking and girls and stuff like that. I mean, girls, I mean, I was very inexperienced with girls. I was in a full-time relationship. I didn't really have that kind of hedonistic attitude towards meeting chicks as in the rock and roll sense. But I put it on, you know. Like, so what's this song going to be about? And we were singing about being teenagers, and I was the youngest in the group at 24. Yeah. So, you know. So that's when I realised that I had to be a bit more real. And as soon as I was, that's when people started listening. And then the penny dropped. I'm like, okay, so if you want people to actually take you seriously, you have to be serious, you know. So that's kind of how that happened, yeah.
All right. And to follow up on that, when you break into a new concept,
Yeah.
like I really appreciated the comment earlier where you said, you know, by changing what I'm doing to just the Stefan Murphy thing,
Yeah.
or whatever the project is.
Yeah.
You had a clear-eyed vision.
Yeah.
On the horizon. And so as you move on, I mean, how will inspirations fit into that? If you suddenly get another stunning vision to go in a different
Well,
direction.
that's a very good question. So what I've been working on really hard since doing the last album under the name Count Vaseline, and that came out in the end of 2017, so it's nearly 2 years since I've released an album. The reason taking that long, and actually that's not long for a lot of people, but for me it feels long, you know. I want to make sure that the vessel that I build to carry the music from here on in is big enough and bold enough and sturdy enough, and I'm using ship metaphors here, to be able to float whatever it is I put into it. So if I want to write a song about this or a song about that or this type of style, I want to make sure that the musical template that I lay down is flexible enough to be applicable to no matter what I do. And I've proved that this is possible by doing the acoustic shows, because I can do Count Vaseline songs acoustically that were recorded with no organic instruments whatsoever and still make them sound like songs. And I can do pretty much all of the Mighty Steph catalogue in the same way. And that's been an important exercise, trying to fit some of those songs from the past into the present and help them inform and build for the future has been, a huge part of what I've been doing in the last year of getting back to touring. So I'm hoping by the time an album comes around, or if I ever did a tour and incorporated a band and had, I could say, here's 50 songs from the last 15 years. Yeah. Let's learn them and let's be able to play them like at the drop of a hat and make them sound legit no matter what. So that's kind of what I'm working at. And the new songs, there are plenty of new songs. Still writing. I still think maybe there's 2 more definitive tunes that I need in order to make a really good debut album for the next thing. But I'm confident I'm getting there with it. I'm going on long drives is a really fun way of songwriting, because sometimes I'll have 3 chords, I'll record them, I'll loop them, and I'll put them on the car stereo, and I'll just let them go and go and go, and they might be going for 15 minutes before I'd have an idea, okay, here's a line for that. And whenever I'm on my own, which is a lot when I'm on the road, like it gives me a chance to work on stuff like that. So I'm going off rambling now, but essentially that's what I have to say about that.
Well, let's pull you back in then and give you a question that's real simple to answer.
Yeah.
What do you think of Dexy's Midnight Runners?
I'm a big fan. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
That's right.
And that song derives from a real life event. 2 real life events. When I got married, and my wife and I were making our grand entrance to the reception. So we were all downstairs drinking in the bar, and then everyone was called to their dinners upstairs. We had it in like a music venue that I worked in at the time. We rented out the upstairs, and they made dinner and stuff like that. So everyone took their seats at the table, and then they do this thing, introducing the bride and groom.
Right.
And we had Dexy's Midnight Runners, Gino, and everyone was like up dancing on the tables and stuff when we came in. So that line appears in the song. And then when my wife became pregnant, one of my friends suggested to me, you should call the child Dexy's Midnight Murphy. So like all of the absurdities of the lyrics of that song like came from real interaction, and there's nothing more absurd than life, and that's proof of that.
Nice. Do you have any last message you'd just like to send out, because we're going to play this and share it with all the shipmates? Anything you want to say to all the shipmates while you've got the mic right here? Yeah,
there's plenty, but I'll keep it brief. As I've told you fellas, at least, I've had my struggles with addiction, and in the last few years I've been sober, and coming on a cruise per se, tends not to be very a sober thing,
Yep.
I certainly know the last time I was on the Salty Dog it wasn't that way, and I had a lot of trepidation with this one because not that I'm at any sort of crisis point with my sobriety, but it's always an ongoing consideration. I wouldn't even say struggle at this point, but it's a consideration. You have to. And I thought it was going to be hell. A little part of me thought that. Like obviously, the positive side of the brain overrides that fear at all times. But it's just been amazing. Like everybody that I've spoke to, everybody that's questioned why I haven't got a drink in my hand, being an Irish person and stuff like that, has been so unbelievably supportive, understanding, and even congratulatory. Which I mean, nobody needs to be congratulated for not having a drink in their hand, but I'll take it. But there's just so many beautiful souls from all walks of life on this thing. There's no pretenses, there's no elitism, there's no nothing. All the artists, like the artists on the low paychecks and the artists on the high paychecks mingle as one with the people who are paying their paychecks, and it's just beautiful. I really love it. The end of night shindig of the punk rock karaoke, where you can see the beautiful inebriated state of every single person in all their glory that the day has produced, is my favorite time of the night, even as a sober person. I just love that chaotic hurrah that every night on this thing tends to bring. And Flogging Molly have built a beautiful dream here, and I hope they continue to dream it, because it means it would be a huge gaping hole in people's lives if this wasn't here. It's great.
I think that's a good place to end.
Absolutely.
Steph, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with us.
It's been my pleasure. I love talking about myself.
It was a great conversation. I really appreciate it. So
thanks a lot, guys.
We'll be hearing this on Radio Free Pensacola
and EAV Rudio.
Look forward to it. Thank you very much.
You good, Steph?
Merci.
Bye now.
You can't see this, you can't hear this, but we're shaking hands. It's all good. There's no animosity.